Now check this baby out right here. Here we have a pristine Winchester, model 1904. It's like 1914 and 1919 is when this one was made between. So because this is a non-serialized firearm, the way you date it is a lot of it depending on how the printing is done on it. And I'm not talking about the font. So right here we have the model 1904, 22 short, long or extra long Winchester. Now right here we have the patent date of August 20th, 1899. So the reason we know that this is an older model but not the oldest has to do with the fact that it says long or extra long. Extra long 22 came out, I believe, after 1914. I can't remember what year that was. I think it was 1927 that changed to 22 long rifle. So in 1919, Winchester started changing their model numbers from the full 4-digit model number to a 2 digits. So it would have gone from 1904, after 1919 would have been model 04. These came out in 1904. It's got a heavy barrel, 21-inch barrel. It's got the most amazing sights, fully adjustable. I mean, in the dovetail, you can move this side to side, and you can adjust that for windage, and then for elevation, you've got this screw right here. On the business end of the firearm, as you can see, this one is in pristine condition. You'll notice, especially by the fact that it's missing most of the front sight post, including the tin bead, that should be affixed atop that, but is not. Now, that was removed for accuracy's sake, and so apparently it wasn't very accurate before, so by modifying it slightly and removing most of the front sight, it allows for heavy accuracy. Right there, you're gonna see that crown has been well taken care of and is in amazing shape. Now, this gun has seen a very interesting life. Apparently, they use this thing to help change tires, rotors, brakes, and they do many different things across the farm. The stock right here actually has a crack going through it. You can see it better on the inside of the stock. It's made of gum wood, and as you can see, it also is in amazing condition. Now, I don't want to use the word restored because that would assume that I did this correctly. But the reality is, I restored this gun into a usable condition from what it was, but definitely not restored to anything of high quality. It was so rough and so bad. Every last inch of this thing, when I found this, was covered in rust, and you couldn't even see at what model number or what it was. The bolt was seized up. Now right here you do have the Winchester proof mark on the barrel. Now everything else on it, that's pretty much all it is. It's just the barrel's been milled out so you can fit this bolt into it, and you have a very simple bolt. When you push this back in, it pushes the ejector back into place. Push the bolt handle down, pull back on the firing pin, pull the trigger, it fires. One thing about this is reliable. Every time I've shot it, it has gone off. Now, this was in such terrible condition when I got it. I was basically told by everyone, do not fire that gun, it's not safe. For me, that became a challenge. So I want to show you this one more time. Now, when I pull this back, this stops. So it kind of free floats into there, and that's smooth. I mean, smooth as sandpaper, right? I'm sure when it was first made and before it was all chowdered up, that thing probably was pretty smooth. Not so much anymore. But right here, we have where the 22 shell goes in, right into there. And so when you pull this back here, that actually is supposed to pull the round out. Now this particular firearm has an issue with that. And being the fact that everything is rusted out so bad in it, the chamber also is rusted out. The casing forms to the chamber, and the mouth of the casing, or portions of the casing, become bigger than the back of the chamber. And so most of the time you got to use your Swiss Army knife to eject the shell. Every once in a while it works, and it's like a hallelujah moment right there. So you just push that back in, close that down, pull that back, pull the trigger. Now this pin right here, all this is a hinge for the trigger. The trigger is a very simple mechanism. So you want to eject that, you pull that back out. On this particular model, it doesn't eject. Pry that 22 out. You notice there's no feed ramp or anything in there. So this fully relies on you inserting the bullet into the barrel and then closing the bolt. So that you're not even, I mean, granted it is a single shot, but you're not going to get fast fires with this. We've got the crescent back, got one screw there, that affixes that. I believe last time I took this off that there's some initials scratched into there. There's some kid named Derek Carrion or something like that. That's an unfortunate last name. You got this sweet hand grip right here, this nice scroll work that's just screwed right onto the stock that just really adds a level of refinement to this gun. And in fact, that's about that, and I can't remember what this is called on the forend. This is special. There is a name for this style of forend on stock. Those are about the two fanciest things you're going to find on this particular firearm here. Now you'll notice right here on this, it's a knurled screw. After you get this off, you'll see that it's actually a captive screw into the stock so you don't lose it, which was a nice touch. Normally, when you see these nowadays, they're usually made to fit a quarter. And this one is actually made more, what it seems like it fits a penny or a dime just perfectly. I ought to use a penny from the time period. This happens to be from 1918 right here. So this penny and this gun were both, they might not have been manufactured at the same time, but they were definitely newborns around the same time. So you just unscrew that, and that separates. As you can see right here, that crack is much larger than what it appears on the outside. But this was in such rough shape. I wasn't restoring this for any collector's value or anything like that. I was just restoring it enough to attempt to shoot it without killing myself. And then on the trigger, it hinges right on this pin. That trigger just flips the lever. Now that lever goes into here. So when you cock that, when you pull the trigger, all it's doing is pulling this down, and the sear releases. I'll show you how simple this is to take apart. You have this spring that comes through here. This holds the barrel to the stock. There is this hole in it right here with the spring that comes through, this flat spring. So you just pull up the sear, slide your bolt out. Now to get that out of the way, you just pull on it and try not to knock everything off the table. And that's really all there is to that action / barrel right there. Inside this particular barrel, there are riflings that you can see, but once again, this was left out in the weather. So anyway, the way I found this gun was it was rusting away on the front porch of someone's house, and I had gone over to see him, and I mentioned, I said, hey, do you know you have a rifle just laying there, a gun sitting on your front porch on the railing? And he's like, oh yeah, I was just gonna throw that away. Now, judging by its condition, I could see why. I mean, this thing was browner than the stock, and this stock was almost so dark that it was just about black. It was scudgy. It was in bad shape. And as you can see on this, some of that rust really did some heavy pitting damage on this thing. So like I said, at the time you couldn't see any of this writing. With a lot of work, I was able to see the model 1904 Winchester, but I didn't even know this writing existed until I stripped off all the rust and really got working on this thing. So the sear right here that's activated by that spring pushes up along this surface right here. We have where the trigger goes in. When you pull the trigger, it pulls this down. That sear lets go, and the firing pin goes forward, fires the bullet. Here we have the ejector, so and you have this little knurl here. And then you've got these two flanges right here. This is what keeps this in place in the barrel. And then together with the bolt sits in there like that, and the bolt's free to go back and forth and turn down. So when you pull back, that spring's pressing along here. You pull back one little notch, that spring, when it jumps up here and it ramps down there, that's supposed to help give that enough speed and inertia to eject the bullet. Then you push this forward, pushes that back into place. You lock your barrel in, pull this back until this part right here engages on the sear, and that holds that back until you pull the trigger and it releases the firing pin. The firing pin is quite robust. I can't imagine that one breaking. I mean, considering how abused this gun was, even that abuse did not even come close to breaking that firing pin. But I do believe they use this bolt in many different versions of firearms of the 22 variety. This part right here is kind of spring loaded, so that comes over, and that's what holds your bolt into place before you fire in the locked position. I think this is an ingenious design, and the part I love the most about it is that it's not just simply ingenious, but it's simple. If I could just remember how to put that together. So that slides into there. You gotta just hold that up a little bit, slide that in. Now, once you release, now it's all nice, one nice assembly. You can kind of, now that you've seen all the sides of it, so this comes over here, locks into place. You pull the bolt up, goes over that knurl. Now it's free to go back. Now this spring is right here on that bump. As you pull back, it's a little bit of resistance, and then that pops the ejector. Show you one more time. And so hopefully the round comes out. When you round in, close that up. Super simple gun. This one's a lot of fun to shoot. You cannot, well, when there's two problems to these sights. First of all, I haven't even attempted to sight it in. The barrel's so bad, and considering that there's no front sight post in, it just doesn't seem like a worthwhile time. But you know, as long as you're shooting at a target that's about 6 feet by 6 feet from 10 yards away, you're probably gonna hit it. You just wanna make sure that the triggers goes into there we go, into the sear. That is the model 1904. This one happens to be somewhere around 100 years old right now, as it is. I use the words restored loosely, but I did bring this back to life. Now, one thing, it was in such bad condition, I did have a gunsmith look at this prior to me doing anything with it. I really want to know if it was safe to fire before going out and mess around. What I learned was that I should not fire it because it's not safe. Now, when I heard that, I don't know why, but it didn't register correctly in my head, because what I heard was...
Now everybody knows the golden rule of gun safety. Fire a firearm 3 times. If it safely fires 3 times, it's safe to hold in your hands and shoot. This thing is pretty much a mantelpiece firearm and not safe to shoot. So I'm doing the only redneck thing available. Now, as you can see, I've got myself a pretty nice rig here. Professional quality. The firearm has been loaded. It is a version of the gun which can safely handle a 22 long rifle, which is what's loaded in it right now. Hey, the gun didn't blow up. Not that I was expecting it to. I pulled back the bolt on it and realized this thing is the simplest firearm I've ever seen. There's no extractor. You just do it the old-fashioned way, I guess, and dig the thing out. I think we're gonna have to go MacGyver on this. Yep, coyote poop. I was aiming for the other one. It's missing part of the front sight. Should have a bead on it. All that's left is the front post. Let's try another. Well, if you first you don't succeed, and second, third, fourth, fifth, and 10th you don't, try again. What could go wrong?
It is a blast to shoot. I still like to take this out and just go plink around with it. And like I said, every once in a while, I actually hit what I'm aiming at. But most of the time, it just makes dust, and it's just a blast. It's a blast to shoot something sold. It's a blast to shoot something that I put time and effort into. Part of the reason I really love this gun is the journey that I was able to take with it. Just kind of haphazardly stumbling upon it. I decided, man, and I told him, I said, if you're just gonna throw this thing away, do you mind if I have it? And he's like, you bet. He looked at me like I was nuts. He was like, why would you want this piece of rusty junk? I thought, man, there's just something wrong. You can't take it. And I didn't know it was a Winchester at the time, but in my world, you can't just throw a gun away. That's just wrong. I'm pretty sure that's a cardinal sin right there.
So there you have it, shooting the 1904 Winchester 22 long rifle with modern ammo. She might not be pretty, but she shoots. She chooches. That's all that matters here. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I sure did.